Hi, we're Diamond and Silk, and we love the Naked Truth Report.
Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Hi, folks. It's me, Kathleen. Yes, we're here. Can you believe I showed up? No, you would think maybe I couldn't make it, given what I saw Tuesday night, right? We all watched it. Have we gotten over the shock yet? I mean, it was shocking, to say the least. I was sitting in front of my TV watching Fox, which we'll get into that later, thinking, how come they haven't called Florida yet? They had already called California, and Florida wasn't even called for Trump. And yet the numbers were clear. It was obvious he had won. Fox would not call Florida. Why? They haven't called Alaska yet, I don't think, nor North Carolina. And Dick Morris gets into why, excuse me, it's possible that Trump will win when the counting is done and the courts will order a proper counting, because it hasn't been done. Why? It's clear, it's obvious. And I think it happened in California during the midterms. We're up at night watching, and we go to bed thinking, oh, Trump won. You see the numbers. You see he's winning in Wisconsin and Michigan and where else? In North Carolina and Pennsylvania. He's winning. Then you wake up in the morning and what happens? He lost. Every single one of them. In fact, and that happened in Orange County, did it not? Weren't there four seats for Congress, for the House, where Republicans were winning? You go to bed, then you wake up in the morning, and all four seats were won by Democrats. So this is like an obvious tactic that they use, the Democrat Party, to commit fraud, to cheat, yes. Let's see. And one of the things is they didn't call Florida and they stopped counting. Pennsylvania, stop counting right in the middle. And they said, well, Pennsylvania, they're going to go to bed and they'll come back tomorrow. Why would they stop counting? Then they come back and it's enough vote, not Pennsylvania, but all of them stopped. Wisconsin, Georgia, Michigan, they stopped. And then they said, we'll resume tomorrow, right? It was like it was a plan. They knew this was going to happen. And the media was right there in on it. Why? Why didn't the media call Florida? Why didn't Fox, which is supposed to be Trump supporters, watch Fox, because we know the other outlets, the other news organizations are Trump haters. So why didn't Fox call? And now we're seeing that Fox is, and actually Trump actually warned us. Fox has become a turncoat. They've completely abandoned Trump. They're no longer for Trump supporters to watch Fox. And in fact, Jeanine Pirro's show, is that Judge Jeanine? Her show was suspended because she was going to talk about the voter fraud. In fact, we're not even supposed to discuss it. We see what has happened. We couldn't discuss the Hunter laptop. We can't discuss Biden's dealings with China. We're being censored by big tech, now censored by media. Someone said, overheard someone say, we cannot discuss voter fraud. We're not even supposed to discuss it. The networks, CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, are supposed to determine who is the president-elect. They'd make that decision, which is ridiculous, which we know is not true. And for Fox to not even be on the side of Trump supporters, not to be on the side of Trump, to raise these questions, these issues that are not ambiguous. It's not ambiguous that fraud was committed. It is clear that fraud was committed. It is clear. The issue is, will we be able to prove it? That's the issue, because there's sufficient evidence of fraud. There's sufficient evidence of fraud. Yes. In fact, let's see. And in fact, it's piling up more and more, right? Eyewitness testimony about falsifying the postmarks on late mail-in ballots. People are willing to give testimony, sign affidavits as to this. Election observers were being harassed and kept away from kept away from the counting tables in Detroit. Software glitches have been discovered switching votes from Trump to Biden in Michigan. This is the same software that was being used in battleground states. Statistical anomalies like 90% voter turnout in Wisconsin, and bizarre, this is the thing, this is what we witnessed when we woke up in the morning, bizarre late night vote spikes for Biden in several states. This is all evidence, and I'm sure there's going to be more, to suggest that the Democrats and their media allies attempted to steal the election. Yes. And this is their MO. As I said, this is what happened in Orange County. This is their MO. So what are we to do? What are we to think? We're going to wait until tomorrow to see what happens. And I think, given Justice Alito has already sort of tipped his hand and given the other justices instructions as to the way he's leaning. In his ruling as to what the Pennsylvania Supreme Court were derelict in their duty by not segregating the ballots that came in after the cutoff date. Is it the ballots that came in after the mail-in? Ballots that were maybe postmarked properly, but came in later. I think that's it. Some of the ballots regarding the date has to be segregated from the other ballots. So Alito is already letting them know that there's there are issues, at least in Pennsylvania. And as I said, Dick Morris goes over to how Trump can win, actually. So Fox News never called Alaska. I think that's 3 points. And we know he won Alaska, and he also won North Carolina. That's definitive, right? That's certain. There's no doubt about it. And then Dick Morris goes into explaining that I actually wrote it down, that, next is Arizona. And with every 12 hours, Arizona is doing their regular count, and every 12 hours, Biden is losing his lead. It's being reduced significantly. And he thinks that he will win Arizona, and that will bring just by the regular count, you see, because Arizona hasn't finished doing their count. But just because, and in fact, Maricopa County is red. So they're anticipating, and Biden is losing his lead in Arizona. Oh, that's another thing, how Fox News immediately called Arizona for Biden, immediately, before Florida. And why did there was no evidence as to, and in fact, they kept saying, the Trump campaign folks were saying he's going to win Arizona just by the regular count, not by the recount. Trump will win Arizona. So why did they call Arizona so quickly? And in fact, I was watching Fox, and their statistician came on and explained, and he seemed guilty because he kept saying like, I'm sorry, unfortunately, he kept saying that. He looked guilty. But he came on to explain why, given the data, as a statistician, there is no way. We ran the numbers, and there's no way that Trump will win Arizona. Well, Arizona hasn't finished their count, and Trump is decreasing Biden's lead there. And it is anticipated that he will win by at least 30,000 votes, yes. So that will cut into his lead. The other thing, so after Arizona, then we go, so having, having Alaska, North Carolina, and getting Arizona will bring Trump up to 243 votes. Then they will do a recount in Georgia. Now, with a recount, that's when they're looking at paper ballots. And during the recount, you have both Republican and Democrat overseers. And there's no way that you can have any kind of funny business because it will be hand ballots looked at, okay? So he thinks that Trump will win Georgia because he was already ahead. I'm wondering, the question for me is, how did they dump all of these? They dumped these extra ballots, or was it a computer glitch? That's the question. Did they bring in extra ballots for Biden so that he would come up to the number that would allow him to win? Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to make. Then we had to, several people had made this point. We had to wait. We had to have that period of waiting so that they could see how many votes Trump would get, so they would know what number of votes, what number of ballots were needed so that Biden would win, you see. So we had to have that cooling off period, that waiting period. That's why all those battleground states, they just stop counting. That doesn't even, it looks so suspicious. I mean, anyone with any common sense would know what's going on here. Why are they stopping? Why did they call Arizona so quickly? That's not evident. And why don't they call Florida and North Carolina and Alaska? They still haven't called Alaska. That's the question. They still haven't called North Carolina. So he gets Alaska, Trump gets Alaska, he gets North Carolina, he gets Arizona just by the normal counting, not recounting, and he gets Georgia by recounting, which will automatically go into the recount because it falls within the margin of less than 1%, within 1%. And he's going to win Georgia. He was already winning. Now, my question I have, outstanding question is, why will he win Georgia? I forgot why. Because there will be paper ballots that are being looked at by both Democrats and Republicans. And any suspicious ballots will be tossed aside. Okay, so that's that. Then after Georgia, and that brings him up to 250, let's see, Trump, Arizona, which brings us to 243 after Arizona. Then Georgia brings us up to 259. Then we go into Wisconsin. Yes. And this recounting, and it will be a recanvassing. And Dick Morris spoke with the governor of Wisconsin, Scott Walker, and he said that there is no way that electoral fraud can take place with Wisconsin. And that in Wisconsin, they will recanvass the votes, which will take place in 2 weeks. And that will give Trump 10 more electoral votes. That's 269. And then we go to Pennsylvania. And there are 3 ways that he can win in Pennsylvania. One is the provisional ballots, and then the second way is tossing out the ballots. And this is what the Alito Supreme Court judge, this is what Justice Alito said. You have to segregate the ballots that did not meet the new November 3rd deadline. And then there was another one, but I can't remember. But anyway, yes, Trump can win. That's what it comes down to. So it's going to be Alaska, you get those votes, North Carolina, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, and then Pennsylvania. Those 6 states. And on Monday, this will change. There's no way that this is going to go forward. There's too much evidence of fraud. There's too much evidence. The Supreme Court is going to hear this case. And all in the media. And you see who hates Trump. or who is a part of the deep state, the media, for one. But all these other folks, yes, Lou Dobbs has now left Fox and Fox Business. Let's see. Trump supporters are no longer watching Fox. They're watching Newsmax now and One American News. Yes. These drastic changes. People are leaving Facebook and Twitter. Yes. Because media and social media hate half of the American people. Trump got, at a minimum, 70 million votes, right? We must have integrity in our elections, or half of the American people will never trust it again. And this is why the Supreme Court will take it up. Yes? We must have integrity. If all the evidence of voter fraud is not investigated and properly accounted for half of America, half of America will passionately believe that the election process is fraudulent, no matter who ultimately wins. And this is why the Supreme Court is going to take it up. And the audacity and the nerve of the media and Biden supporters to actually believe that Biden is the president-elect is just unbelievable. The other thing is this. Oh, and they were out there celebrating without masks. Schumer was out there celebrating. De Blasio was out there celebrating in New York City without masks, without social distancing. You see, yes, they're guilty. I mean, this is like a charade, a game that is being played on half of the American people, and we're not going to stand for it. We're not going to stand for it. I believe that there's hope because the Supreme Court realizes that you cannot have half of the American people not having faith and trusting in the electoral process. You cannot have that. And yet, the Democrats are saying, oh, there was no fraud. We went through 4 years, Trump supporters went through 4 years of Russian collusion, that the Russians interfered with the election. And now, all of a sudden, the elections are fair? This is what Democrats expect us to believe. That there's no way that the election can be rigged or have fraud? But yet we go through 4 years of Russian collusion? And they want us to believe that everything is on the up and up when we're sitting there in front of our televisions and seeing Fox or no news outlet call Florida. And we're wondering why. And they're calling Arizona before Florida. They called California before Florida. They never called North Carolina or Alaska. And we want to know why. Yes. I have phone calls. I see a lot of people are calling in. Why don't I take a call? We have, let's see, let me take a call. Because I know you guys are out there and you're upset, right? We're all upset. Why don't I take a call from Gregory? Hi, Gregory. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
And Kathleen, thank you for taking this call. And yes, as a legal U.S. citizen, a direct descendant of the World War II generation, this is an affront to all the sacrifices that all the military have made for this country's sovereignty and liberty over the generations. And to see this happen again and again, it doesn't surprise me. I call them the corruptocrats. They're corrupt. And to get to the point, Charlie Kirk, the president, founder of Turning Point USA, he did a broadcast about a day or two ago indicating that his group was doing some special investigating on the voter rolls. I can't remember the exact state or area that he did this on, but he said that they were finding discrepancies between the votes that were submitted, say, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, just approximately what he said, and then a more recent distribution of votes, demographics for votes that were submitted, and said there's a big discrepancy between the numbers that were submitted back then versus more recently. And that's the type of information that he could get him on the air with you, and he could talk more specifically as to what he's been finding, and maybe that information should be passed on to President Trump's legal team, Jay Sekulow and Rudy Giuliani, and say, hey, we've got more evidence here that there's a real discrepancy on what those ballots are all about. And point, in California, I heard one broadcast from Governor Newsom say that he's contemplating doing an executive order that all voting by mail-in ballots will be the standard affair from this point on.
Mm-hmm.
Where does he get the authority to do this?
Yeah.
And, again, in the Constitution, probably heard this under Mark Levin. He points that to what meant the section 2 of that. If I remember correctly, that there are specific guidelines as to how to conduct an election, especially in the case of a presidential election. The legislatures have that authority to work that out. Now, the question is, are they going to get so corrupt that, okay, you got a bunch of Democrats running your legislature, they're going to make up a whole new way of voting things so it then benefits their party? This is not great. This is not what the Constitution is supposed to be construed to benefit one side versus the other. So if you can get a hold of Charlie Kirk, that would be a great broadcast addition to what you're doing, because I do smell a rat, a big one.
I mean, there's no Trump. Believe me, Trump is going to fight this. It's evident to everyone, and you cannot have half the American people believing that our electoral process is fraudulent. Okay.
I agree.
So there's no way.
This is disenfranchising the American people out of an honest, clear, and clear, honest vote. And I believe, former President Barack Obama, he got in and twice, okay, and heaven knows if there was any discrepancies going on there. But okay, he became president, boom, and we, the conservatives, we didn't make a big stink about it. We were out there, rising holy hell about it. But there's always that concern about, was that a legitimate election of this man? I don't give a darn about his ethnicity. The thing is the election being honest and fair. That's what I care about.
Right. We're hearing all sorts of rumors, but we know specific things like the eyewitness testimonies of falsifying, the backdating of the mail-in ballots, the election observers not being able to see. This is protocol. The election observers are supposed to be able to see the ballot, the software glitches. You see, these are evidence. Right. This is evidence. Okay, and the Supreme Court is going to hear this evidence, and it's and whether or not it's proof of fraud, this is evidence of fraud, but whether or not it meets the standard, is it more likely than not, or clear and convincing evidence, or beyond a reasonable doubt? There are various standards, is what the Supreme Court justices, but they're going to hear it. And this is the amazing thing is the media, you see.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned about people going around celebrating their belief that candidate Biden and company.
And it's all over the media.
I saw that last night. I said, there they go. And this whole thing is still in court. You don't have a final decision yet. But, these people, they're all in a stir, and they're just following what the media is telling them. They're not asking any real concise, objective questions as to what really went on during this course of this election. So that's,
and they have no doubt, as if they weren't watching it. How they stop. There's a music. Thank you very much, Gregory, for calling in. When we come back from the break, I'll open up the phone lines and you can call in. Yeah, it was very disgusting. We're all disgusted. We're sitting on the edge of our chairs. Yes. But we know that it's not over yet, folks. We'll be right back. This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Naked Truth Report. We're talking about the election fraud that took place Tuesday night. We all saw it, right? We know what happened. Listen, people who deny reality need to be denounced as such, deniers of reality, not reasoned with. Yes. Don't waste your time reasoning with people who deny reality. The media is denying reality. They know the laws. They know the Constitution. They know that the media does not determine who our president is. CNN, NBC, CBS, they don't call who's the president. The electors, the legislators determine who is president. It has to be certified by the state. Each state must certify the votes. Well, that's not going to happen, folks. Why? Because Trump is filing a lawsuit tomorrow, Monday. He already has some in the court. And the U.S. Supreme Court is not going to let this go. Why? Because half the American people cannot believe that their elections, that the electoral process is based on fraud, is fraudulent. Half the American people cannot operate like that in America. You have to have a system with integrity that the American people trust. You must. You cannot have half of the American people thinking that there is fraud in our electoral system, in our voting process. These other people, these Trump haters, for 4 years straight, they were talking about Russian interference in the election. And now all of a sudden, this was clean. And Biden, he's so fake. The guy isn't even willing to come forward and say, yes, there must be transparency. Yes, there must, you hear about Republicans not being observers, not having access in Pennsylvania. And even after the court order, that Alito order said the observers must have access, they still denied it in Pennsylvania. And Biden didn't come, this man, oh my God, he is so despicable. Him and Kamala, they're frauds, they're phony, and that's why they're okay with fraud. That's why they're okay with things that are fraudulent, because they're frauds. They're phony. You see? That's their core. And more Americans would know it if they would have heard about the Hunter laptop business. But no, the media suppressed it. See, the media, they're frauds, they're phonies. That's why they're okay with it. That's why they could just go on and act like there was no shenanigans, nothing looked dirty, nothing looked fishy, because they're frauds and phonies. Don't you see? Anyway, let me take a call now from Antoinette. Hi, Antoinette. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Hi, Kathleen. Good evening. Just what you're saying, the media is setting it up all over again, like the Russia collusion, because the president will be putting in his lawsuits tomorrow. Guess what they're doing on 60 Minutes tonight? I was listening to you and watching 60 Minutes. They're setting it up so that, there wasn't any fraud, and they brought in all these people that, the people that are handling the counting of the votes and this, that, and the other. And they're setting it up just like they did with the stupid Russia collusion, and we can't talk about fraud. And they're setting it up on 60 Minutes, this first half of 60 Minutes, of how there's no fraud, and they're interviewing all those people in the polling areas in Philadelphia and the other cities. So it's a bunch of crap, nonsense, like you said, all over again.
Well, we've learned, Trump has revealed so much to the American people. The whole thing is a fraud. The deep state. They're phonies.
Totally. It's so sad. And I wasn't going to call and bother you tonight, but I couldn't help it because just how they lied because of this so-called meeting or luncheon that Donald Trump Jr. had with a person that's Russian. Well, guess what? They're setting the whole thing up again on 60 Minutes.
But-
Media. How dare they?
Well, yeah, the media doesn't decide anything for the American people. And the final say will be with the U.S. Supreme Court. But we're seeing how powerful the media is, how they sway opinion. Let's see. Surprisingly, the president of Mexico said he'll wait. But the president of the UK and Canada and Israel and France, they congratulated Biden. They should know. They should know better. They should know better.
Thank you. You would think they would know better. Dear Lord, well, you know what? We'll say extra prayers for tomorrow, but they're already setting it up. The Democrats knew what they were doing. And like you said, because I live in Orange County, in 2018, we had voted for all these Congress people. We were super ahead. And then all of a sudden, the next day, we lost.
And all
They're
four.
not our Congress people.
All four. No one's this stupid. Thank you, Antoinette. In other words, Biden won enough votes in all of the controversial states, or all of the states where Trump was winning. That night, Trump was winning. And then we wake up the next morning and Biden won enough votes to win all of them. Not just one. And all of those ballots came in for Biden. You see, some of the mail-in ballots were Trump voters. So Trump didn't get any mail-in ballots. And also, it's disproportionate. It was in districts. In fact, there was one district in Atlanta, or was it? Yeah, in Georgia, that wouldn't have gone for Biden, and yet it did. The district with the glitch. Okay, hi, Carlos. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Well, hi, Kathleen. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me how the news media has a lot of power in swaying people. You know, I remember reading articles a few years back whereby Rupert Murdoch, the owner of Fox, was actually sponsored by the Rothschild banking family, the tremendously powerful and influential Rothschild banking family. And the Rothschilds, of course, have always been endorsing leftist communist causes. If you go back to Karl Marx, way back then, they were financing Karl Marx. This was the Rothschilds. They also, of course, they were the creators of the modern state of Israel. Okay? So these are extremely powerful people, and they endorse leftist communist causes because they want to use communism as the model for their future world government, the deep state. Okay, you were mentioning the deep state.
Right. But, in fact, what is his name? The vaccine guy, Bill Gates, has already said, I'm looking forward to working with President-elect Biden on global health and, the surging pandemic and climate change. This is what Bill Gates has come out and said. You see?
That's part of the lie they're foisting on the American people, right. The virus. If they mean of enslaving us, and Trump was never really partial to the facade of the COVID-19. He was reluctant to close down the economy because he knew he knew the farce that it was.
Right.
He didn't want to lose jobs, and so that's why they have to get rid of Trump also, because he wasn't going along with the program.
Yeah, he's going against the establishment. Yes, and the deep state.
The establishment is, of course, it's controlled at the top by the Rothschilds, the Queen of England, the Rockefellers, all them people way up at the top, and even higher than that. You got the Pope in there,
right.
The Black Pope of the Jesuits. You got some real hierarchy of extremely powerful factions that people have never heard about.
Right.
They really get out there and start doing some homework.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Let me get Raul from Highland Park. Hi, Raul. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. Man, I'm serious. The late great Malcolm X, Alhaj Malik al-Shabazz once said, the media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent, and that's power because they control the minds of the masses. Mm-hmm. And that's what's been going on. This media is working for the Democrat Party. This is such a disgraceful display that this jackass goes out there and he's proclaiming, they're proclaiming him president when this hasn't been certified, Kathleen.
Right.
Okay? And this is just an embarrassment. I mean, you can imagine China and Iran, they're just laughing at this despicable display. And, regarding the Murdochs and Fox, there was a power struggle there. I don't know if you're aware. When Mr. Ailes passed away, well, first he had to resign in disgrace because Gretchen Carlson, remember that reporter charged Ailes with sexual harassment?
Mm-hmm.
When he left, there was a power struggle there with Murdoch's sons. There's a son named Lachlan and the other's James. James is more of a centrist, more of a liberal, and Lachlan is more conservative. And they had a kind of it seemed for a while they had kind of a liberal slant. And that's where the president stopped. He had kind of like a falling out with Fox. Did you remember that? Where he was kind of upset with they were slanting things kind of against him. And then when this happened, I wasn't surprised when they called Arizona. I mean, remember they called Arizona when they had all these ballots, Kathleen.
Exactly.
They're counting, aren't they?
Yeah, there was outstanding ballots, hundreds of thousands.
Right, and they called Arizona, and then Florida. Didn't Florida come in kind of late?
Florida came in after California. They still haven't called Alaska or North Carolina. Florida came in after North Carolina, after Arizona. They called Arizona immediately, okay?
Immediately. And Fox was in on that, and they would not rescind that. And I was furious, And then you have, this a person that really, I find corrupt is Stacey Abrams, in Georgia.
Oh, my gosh.
Isn't she involved in some kind of machinations there with the voting and the ballots?
Who knows? Listen, you cannot trust any of these politicians. The Democrat Party and the media are they're the worst thing possible. They're nothing about them is.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Can I say one last thing? Because I got to get this in.
Okay.
Biden's campaign was dead in the water, but it was, Congressman Clyburn resurrected his campaign with that endorsement in South Carolina.
Right.
I'm furious at him because Biden is a bigot. Okay, he's done nothing for black people.
Right.
And Mr. Clyburn went and he rallied the troops. He went to the Baptist churches. He got them to vote for Biden, and then he got him back in the campaign because he had lost the Iowa caucuses. He lost New Hampshire, and he was dead in the water. And then the black vote resurrected him. I mean, this guy is the biggest, bigot, arrogant bastard. I can't stand Biden. He's a disgusting human being.
He's disgusting. And the fact that Obama would even choose him let you know Obama's disgusting too. They're both disgusting. And I'm very disappointed in the black community. It should have been higher. It was the Latino community was 35%. I'm very proud of the Latino community, Latino men, but black women and it was only 18% or something like that for black men. And small, was a smaller percentage for. I'm very disappointed because let me tell you, there's a problem there where black people cannot connect the dots. Okay,
they can't. I mean, it's so frustrating. But you know what I've been noticing?
They're dense. They're not. They don't get it, and that's a problem.
I've been noticing since the president came in, since Trump came in. I've noticed more blacks working. Like I see them at Target.
Right. You would.
True that you see more black employment, and this is just so bad for the black community.
Oh, it's gonna be. Listen, if there's a Biden administration, we're all done. Those borders are going to be swung right open.
He's in bed with China. This is scary stuff.
And his number one priority is the LGBTQ. That's number one, and the borders will be wide open. And he'll do whatever China. Listen, China will be owning America. Hello, we're in trouble, folks. But it's not going to happen. We're optimistic. Thanks for calling, Raul. Okay, Barbara from the welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Hi,
Kathleen.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for being there. I knew you would be there. When I heard your voice, I look forward to your Sunday night show. I feel buoyed up with your hope. I am hopeful, but I've had a hard time getting through these last few days. My heart is heavy, but I just remember who I am, and I keep putting one foot in front of the other, and I know that God is above me, and I have KRLA, and I just wanted to say something about these mail-in ballots.
Mm-hmm.
They cost $65 million. I don't know if that's just for California or for the whole country. Governor Gruesome said they're fabulous. I don't think so. I think there's too much of a chance for fraud. Several of them came to my address. I'm going to save them and send them back and destroyed. But anything could happen with those ballots hanging around. And the poor postal workers, I was out walking with my dog one night, maybe a week and a half ago or so. It was like 11:30, midnight. And I came to a truck just sitting there, parked kind of strangely. And I said, oh, my God, I hope the person hasn't been robbed, the carrier. I tapped on the window, looked around. I called the emergency police. I thought something had happened. And then kept walking. We found him in a lobby in an apartment building, and then another worker came along. He was the same person I had given my mail to at like 12 hours later, 10 hours later, earlier, sorry, in the day, and he was still working. And it's not even Christmas.
I didn't follow you. What were you saying?
What I'm saying is, just the postal carriers having this big burden of mail to carry the ballots, delivering all the ballots to people.
Oh, well, I don't listen. They were told in Michigan to backdate the mail. Okay, so I don't have any sympathy. Listen, the American people, more than 70 million people voted for President Trump. And they have committed a fraud on us. They have disenfranchised us. That's more important than a mailman carrying mail. Some of these mail folks backdated the mail when they came in late. The country is the most important thing. What is happening to the country? We cannot be under the thumb of China. We cannot be under the thumb of the globalists. No. We have to fight for our freedom, for our country, for our democracy, for the U.S. Constitution, for the rule of law. We cannot have fraud in our elections. And this is the thing. The Democrats have obviously, they were bold enough to do this. Obviously, they've done it before. They knew they would get away with it. They feel they're going to get away with it, but they're just rushing now. All the investigations that we went through with Trump, the Russian collusion investigation, the Mueller, all the investigation, all their money, now they can't slow down. And remember when Gore ran? He had 6 weeks, I think.
It was like somewhere between 37 and 42 days.
And yet Biden is rushing.
President Trump doesn't get credit for the many, many things he's done for all people. He doesn't even take his salary. He has helped people forever. When he hears about a family that's in trouble, he has gotten his secretary to contact them, and he helps them. He goes to see his workers. He shakes hands with everybody. He loves everybody, and I'm sick of the lies that people put forth.
Well, the American people can be divided between Trump supporters and Trump haters. But Trump supporters and Biden supporters, the American people are divided along those lines. And I think it speaks to your intelligence or your integrity.
I agree.
To your character. Because these Democrats don't even question. They were sitting there looking at the results coming in, and they have no doubts. All of them are certain that everything was on the up and up.
Like it's all rehearsed.
And they're kind of simple-minded people, I think, most of them. No, they are. They really are. And I've been saying that. because they're just that's why they resort to name calling, because they can't get into and that's why the media, it was like Trump is a xenophobe and a homophobe and a racist and a bigot and an authoritarian and a totalitarian. It was just labels, but was nothing of substance.
Lies.
And then the people will say, they repeat what they hear on TV from Rachel Maddow. Oh, he's a xenophobe. He's a racist. He's a homophobe. He's a globalist. He's an authoritarian. He's a fascist. Then you would see Democrat supporters use those same words. They don't even know what they mean. And they're using the words. So they're very simple-minded people.
Along.
They're superficial
people.
people.
Realize that the future of our country is at stake, and that's not being dramatic.
Well, they don't know.
Real.
They don't. It is real. It is very real. But they have no idea, and they don't care because they're superficial people with superficial and phony lives. And in fact,
they want suffer free.
Okay,
They
thanks,
don't
Barbara.
understand.
Thanks, Barbara, for calling in. They're basically, we only have 1 minute, so I'm going to just close out right now. Monday is a good day. Tomorrow is a good day because we're going to see some movement in the right direction. We're going to see movement in the right direction, and we will continue to see movement in the right direction. We're going to be looking at Arizona and seeing Biden's lead shrinking. Remember, we've got Alaska, North Carolina. We're going to have Arizona by just regular counting. We get the Supreme Court case going on. Then we get Georgia by regular counting. Georgia goes into an automatic recount because it's less than 1%. And then next, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. We'll be back next week. We'll have good news next week. We'll have good things to talk about next week. I believe it. Yes. Thanks for calling in. Bye.